5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This broadcast, telecast, podcast, and whatever the hell else it is copyrighted by the Rad Network and the Rob and Steve Sports Show, all found at theradnetwork.com, and is for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, account, or descriptions of this madness without the express permission of the Rad Network and Williams Broadcasting and Rob's Really Mean Lawyers is prohibited. So just don't do it.
It's the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Oh, great block. James out of nowhere. Huge defensive play by the four-time MVP.
Welcome to 2 hours of sports and nothing but sports.
This is for sole possession of the lead. Maybe. Yes, sir!
Email the show, ras@theradnetwork.com.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
And I'm sorry, but I can't believe the call.
Me neither.
I cannot believe the call.
And now, the Rad Network presents the Rob and Steve Sports Show.
One of my favorite things about the Rob and Steve Show are the clips that we play to start the show that remind me of some of the greatest and dumbest moments in sports. But welcome to the show. It's a Monday morning, and what a weekend it was for sports. Although, Steve, from what I gathered from your text messages, you spent a lot of your weekend in your backyard in Las Vegas playing more child games with your wife that are oversized.
That's what we do. My wife went out and she bought the giant Kerplunk game, which is pretty much the size of me. It's like 5.5 feet tall. The balls are like the size of baseballs, and you know the pixie sticks or whatever they were that you put through, they're like 2 feet long, like these really long straws. Put it together. I was playing it. My wife kicked my butt though, man. I wasn't any good at it as a kid, and I'm still not any good at it as an adult. But again, just love to play them.
Meanwhile, we had Rory winning a back-to-back major that we got to talk about. He won the Masters. The NBA playoffs are set. NHL still has some work to do. The hottest team in Major League Baseball happens to be a little team that's playing currently in West Sacramento that we have to talk about. Steve, I actually went with the NBA playoffs set, and hockey's going to be done this week. There's a few little things sitting there. We've been talking about salary cap, and there's going to be a lockout in Major League Baseball and parity and such. I'm wondering if there needs to be a step taken back, and I'm going to do a little devil's advocate thing here and see if you can set me back straight here. You've already explained how in hockey, out of nowhere, the Sabres are back in after 14 years, but the Florida Panthers, who have been perennially in the postseason, bye-bye. And you went through it really in depth last week in hockey in particular. But then you look at like the NBA. In the East, you've handed it to the Celtics for the most part, and then in the West, you've got the Spurs, the Nuggets, and OKC. Well, the Spurs and OKC, those are not big, those are not major markets. But and what, 5 years ago, neither one of them was a real team, and they're in it. And there's some examples with baseball too. So is there more than one way to skin this parody cat?
There always is. And you take OKC and San Antonio, and they've done it through young players. I mean, San Antonio, if they didn't get the number one pick and didn't get Wembayana to their team, whoever would have got Wembayana, regardless of the franchise, would have been competitive if the front office had any idea what they were doing at all. OKC, I mean, I was looking at it again. I mean, OKC traded Paul George to the Clippers for SGA, and I think it was 6 first-round picks. I mean, imagine SGA playing with the Clippers and not the Spurs. But that's a tribute to the front office, understanding what they're doing. And then when you do the remodel, you tear it down being able to move those players while they still have great value to help you rebuild quickly, like OKC has. They moved Durant, they moved James Harden was there, they moved Paul George. They did a really good job of setting themselves up. The question then becomes for OKC is okay, once they got to start paying their players, they'll still be really good. What do they do at the draft picks and how long are they really going to be able to keep them? Because I can draft some nice talent and I keep using Jalen Brunson going to the Mavericks, but I'm not going to keep him because he's never going to play full time. So when they hit that free agency, chances are they're going to move to another team. But any team with success, you have to pay your players at a certain point, and that's why it's so difficult to see some of these teams stay really good for such a long period of time. Everybody has to go through the rebuilding, and the teams that have the resources are able to rebound quickly and or sustain. But the teams without it, and you'll see it with OKC here in 10 years, they don't have the players again. Maybe they held on to them too long, that it will fall off the cliff again.
So that's kind of the argument to the boo-hoo crowd. In other words, there's a lot of people that hear about, well, we need more revenue sharing. We need to take care of the small market teams. We need to have a ceiling. We need to have a floor. We need to force every Major League Baseball team to pay at least $100 million or whatever the floor is for team payroll. And people go, well, boo-hoo, figure it out, because boo-hoo figure it out is what the Spurs did. It's what OKC did. Sure, there's always luck involved. That's in sports, but they figured it out. But you're saying, yeah, but it's a limited window, whereas the Lakers can figure it out, the Celtics can figure it out perennially. And what about Charlotte? Charlotte's in, and they're hot. You like the Charlottes. How did they do it?
Again, some good young players, some key free agency. They picked up Knepel in this draft. They've had mellow ball sitting there. So they've been able to do it with a combination of things. Bottom line, it all comes down to ownership and your front office. I mean, as you say, figure it out. If you're a good organization that hires the right people, player development, that's scouting, and a GM that knows what they're doing, you're going to be able to compete a lot more than if you do not. And you could take the bad ownerships, take the Raiders, Mark Davis, and you could throw him in LA. They're still not going to compete. He can have the biggest market or in New York on the planet. Just look at the Jets, and they're still not going to ever be good with the current way it's set up. And maybe there's hope now. Tom Brady coming in, maybe they allow him to do it. But you can also take the best, and the Dodgers right now know how to do it. But you can take the Dodgers and you could drop them in the middle of Nebraska, and they're probably still going to be very good at what they do because they have the right people in the right position. So ownership is key. The other parts are just balancing it out. You need a floor so you don't get these teams tanking all the time. We watched the NBA, and what was it this year? Like 10 teams lost at least 55 games. Everyone hated the regular season. It will correct itself now that we're rolling into the playoffs and excitement will come back. But the NBA season this past year was a waste of time for pretty much everybody. I have never, as a bookmaker, and I've been doing this since 1987. So I've been in this business almost 40 years. I have never seen this many high point spreads game in and game out, and then teams covering these 20 plus point spreads.
So part of what got this top of mind for me was that today, the most expensive series in Major League Baseball history will begin when the Mets, carrying a $375 million payroll, visit the Dodgers, who have a $413 million payroll. And when you factor in the CBT, the competitive balance tax, the total player expenditure for the 2026 season jumps to more than $1 billion for those two teams combined. And when you read the story, something that popped out to me was that the Mets' total payroll, they're the tops, is more than Chicago, Cleveland, and Tampa Bay combined. Chicago, you throw them out. That's the White Sox. They're terrible. But Cleveland and Tampa Bay, they don't suck. Isn't Tampa Bay technically in first place now? So again, there's an argument to be made that, I know it's early, but that it can be done.
Yes, with the right baseball people is what we keep discussing. Tampa Bay plays as a small market team, and they are a small market team. They continue to struggle to draw even when they're making the playoffs and are a very competitive team. They understand that. As you say, figure it out. They have figured it out. Cleveland has figured it out how to say, look, we are a mid to small market team, but we're going to hire the right people to keep us competitive year in, year out. And both of those teams develop pitching. It's like the Milwaukee Brewers develops pitching at an unbelievable rate, and they're able to bring those guys in, have success before they have to trade them off, and then when they trade them off, they get some good players. Understand what you have, but it always comes down to the people you have in those positions, and that's why the Mets have all the money in the world. The Mets still struggle to make the playoffs. Well, it's not a money issue. It's not a market issue. Hmm. Maybe it has to do with the people you have running this organization, which is why you continue to struggle.
With the Mets in particular, that is an owner issue. He's an idiot. Not the best argument because it is such an early part of the season, but in Major League Baseball right now, 26 of the 30 teams are within 3.5 games of each other. And what a logjam. They're all between 9-6 and 6-10. The only exceptions, White Sox, they're 5-10. The Padres, who are 10-6, and then the Dodgers, who are one game ahead of the Padres, 11-4, but you could claim that they're lapping the field with, just 15 games into the season or whatever. But the Dodgers are, for so many reasons, they're an anomaly. And whether or not this holds up at game 160 of the season, that's where the premature part comes. But to be this, yes, it's early, but to have that many teams, 3.5 games separating 26 of the teams in baseball right now, it seems like there's a lot of parity. I know in baseball, before you beat me to it, there's a lot of these teams where we can go, yeah, but the minute the postseason hits, they don't have the pitching, they can't go. But how much does that matter in the beginning to Pirate fans or A's fans or fans of teams that are like, we haven't even seen the postseason in decades. This is a good start. And then we go back to the management. Did the Pirates lock down Skeens? Did the A's not trade everybody to the Yankees, etc.?
This has been a great start to the season. If you throw out the Rockies and the Giants, I think everyone's within 3 games of first place. And the only reason the Rockies and the Giants are that far out is because the Dodgers have the best record in baseball, sitting at 11-4. And getting into that money part, market part, the Dodgers, number one hitting team in the major leagues, most home runs by a hitting team. And oh, by the way, let's have the number one pitching based on ERA in the major league. So
Other
clearly
than
the
that,
Dodgers are the best team in baseball. It's great to see a start of the season start out like this and not a team starting 0-8, 0-10, 1-14. And that season's already over. You're mid-April and that team's already buried. But the strength will separate from the weakness. You will see this as teams go. They don't have the pitching. You're starting to see teams now get into that seventh, eighth, and ninth starting pitcher. So depth is already playing a part, and we're mid April. There will be separation. Cardinals are playing great baseball. They're above 500. You look at, I mean, even the Rockies, they got 6 wins. If they hadn't gotten swept by the Padres, they were at 6-6. They lost a 4-game series. So the White Sox aren't even as bad. They're 6-10 right now, but separation will come. You will see that throughout the season. And one of the things I always look at is your run differential. And when you see a team like the Phillies at 7-8, but they're 16 runs down in run differential, there might be 7-8, and I give them credit because they haven't been playing like that. They've been playing as a worse team than that. The White Sox, though, already 30 runs down in run differential, even though they're sitting at 6-10. This team is going to fade. It's going to fade fast. They're losing by double digits in all of their losses, if not more. 16 games down 30. That means you're already, all your games combined, you're almost 2 runs down in every single game. So there will be separation, but it's great to start this way because everybody still has hope in the middle of April.
Which, by the way, you look at a couple of the things that jumped out at you. The Blue Jays have a negative 25 run differential, and they were just in the World Series last year. On the other side of the coin, no surprise, the Dodgers are plus 35, and the Braves lead the league with a plus 46 run differential. Braves obviously got killed by injuries last season. They look super dangerous this early in the season.
And break it down even farther, they're right at there at the top of pitching, and the right, I think, third in hitting. And then you look at their staff, and all their aces have gone down. I mean, Chris Sale's throwing the ball great, but Spencer Strider's on the 60-day IL. Schwallenbach has gone down. He's on the 60-day IL. Uh, Waldrop, who was another player they were expecting things from, he's on the 60-day IL. So these are three of their top six pitchers that they were counting on, and they're all gone till the All-Star break, yet they're still sitting at 10-6. They had to sign late Martin Perez, who's been a journeyman starting pitcher who didn't do a whole lot. And he's been with a lot of teams lately, but I know him mostly from the Rangers. But he's even producing. He's at a 1.10 whip so far in the season, which just shows that the Braves are able to find these players in no, they're in desperation. There is not a whole lot out there to pick and choose from, and they're still able to find a way and put a quality product on the mound and on the field.
We got more baseball coming up a little later in the show, but I do have one more question I want to go back to when you were going over the Dodgers, and other than that, they're not very good. Best offense, best pitching, blah. Do, where's the hole? Is there a hole other than injuries, which those are not predicted when you look at the Dodgers? Because as recently as last year, while they were getting they had some starting pitching injuries issues. There were some questions about the bullpen and so. Is there a hole with the Dodgers that you see?
Uh, no, not really, because I'm going to throw in the Blake Snell is still on the IR with a shoulder injury. Once they get him up and running, look what they're doing now. And Blake Snell, who's one of the top 20, 25 pitchers in baseball, has been on the shelf. He hasn't even hit the rotation. How many teams, the Braves are doing it, the Yankees are doing it, although the Yankees have really gone into a slump as of late, but can afford to lose one of the top pitchers in baseball and still not miss a beat. The Dodgers, to me, have no weakness. They have the depth. When you go like 8, 9 quality starting pitchers deep, you have the hitting. I mean, we see it. They won back-to-back World Series, and now they add Kyle Tucker. I mean, one of the better outfielders and hitters in the game. It's I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers, I mean, really ran away with it. I think they can make a shot at that 116 wins that the Mariners had. I think, and it's tough to say they're going to go and lose many games in the postseason, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost one game in every series maximum and went on and they're a three-peat, and it was a walk by the Dodgers. That wouldn't shock me at all.
As I said, more baseball coming up. The big thing from the weekend in the sports world, for the most part, was the victory by Rory McIlroy. We'll talk more about Rory in a second. He won his second Masters in a row. There were other side stories that were out there, and if you watched, there was, relatively speaking, a lot of people can't watch golf. It's just not exciting to them. I get it. But like Scotty Scheffler, number one player in the world, who was 12 shots back going into the weekend, he made a run. Justin Rose almost finally got his first Masters. He's already a major winner. There were really cool storylines. Scheffler, the issue with Scheffler for me, I was talking to a buddy of mine over the weekend because I've warmed up to Rory over the years. I was always kind of like, I don't know. Scheffler is an extraordinary golfer. There's something off about his personality that has never grabbed me. I don't root against him, but little things, like, for example, he has this whiny side to him. Yesterday, after he was done, he finished one shot. He finished second. He finished one shot back of Rory McIlroy in the match. And then he said that the setup of the course wasn't equal. He said, I'm not in charge of course setup. And he specifically referenced Friday's second round when he teed off in the morning and finished with a 2 over 74. Quote, I would have liked it to have been a little bit more equal in terms of the fairness and firmness on Thursday and Friday. I was a bit surprised at how soft things were on Friday afternoon, especially as it got late in the day, but the weather changes. Like it was a bit windy on Thursday. And it's almost like at this point his brain went, you're sounding a little like a baby, because his next sentence was, quote, so who knows, it's just part of the game, and quote, shut up. You're the number one golfer in the world. You charged back from being 12 shots out of it over the weekend, and you're choosing to use your time yesterday to say that the course wasn't equal because of the firmness in the morning and this is the same argument as the salary cap thing. Adjust. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way when I saw it.
And we all know in golf, if you play early on Thursday, you play late on Friday. If you played late on Thursday, you play early on Friday. And that's so that everyone gets a morning round and an afternoon round. That's their way of being able to make it as fair as possible. We have no control over weather. And, that part's like, oh, hey, look, it rained on Friday, so the morning got a little bit of an advantage because no balls moved, so you could spin it and set it anywhere you wanted on the green, and there was no bounce. But on Thursday morning, it had been dry for 10 days in a row with nothing, so the greens were a lot hotter than they normally. That's golf. The best they can do is you get a morning, you get an afternoon. Golf has done that forever. And how you can be playing golf this long and then complain about that? Like, he thinks that they should all be able to pick their own time slot at any time. Would that make it fair? But I picked 64th. Rob, you pick second. So you have an advantage. So then I'm going to rip that system apart too. Just accept it. You know it. There's nothing you can do about it. And I agree with you. That's an area he should never have gone to in the first place.
And I'm gonna give Scotty a break. Like I said, he doesn't rub me the wrong way. That comment did. It's just his personality has never really stuck with me. But all of that said, who knows? He just had a kid. Maybe he showed up in Augusta just sleep deprived. He's probably dealing with a wife who I don't know if she's even with him with their newborn. I didn't see that. Either way, maybe baby brain's a part of it. The comment that by itself sucked, and I really do think that maybe his meter was going off in his head saying walk this back. Well, I will give him credit for Saturday. He shoots a 65, an extraordinary round on Saturday, and like one of the first questions he gets from a reporter is how his round could have been better or something like that, and he said that is an awful question, and he just moved on. And he's right. That is a stupid question. You shot 65. What a round. How could you have done better? You weren't quite perfect. So I'm okay with that. See, that one doesn't bother me.
I like him. I cheer for him every week. He did make a run because after Friday, I pretty much buried him and said it was done and over. But he made a run. He made it interesting on Sunday, and that's what I always cheer for: is get him in that running on Sunday. And how do the golfers close?
And he was oh so close. Now, a guy that I've never rooted for. I did root against him for a while. I kind of warmed up, but I never rooted for. And it's because of this crap. Sergio Garcia, 2017 Masters champ. He was so frustrated. He was frustrated at his follow through on the first hole yesterday. He got a bogey, and then he just lost it on hole number 2 in the tee box, which he wound up hitting a shot that ended up in the bunker. He slams his club. I mean, if you watch the video, it's like I play with some volatile guys on the weekends, and I've thrown clubs. It happens. Okay, but first of all, I don't know that I've seen anything quite like this, even with amateurs. But we're also we're not at the Masters, for God's sakes. Okay, so he slammed his club into the tee box twice, if I remember correctly, and you could tell he's clearly damaging the green or damaging the grass of the tee box, and then he walks over and starts slamming the driver against a cooler, which is by a table, snaps the head off the shaft of his driver, which he can't replace because he broke it as a result of abuse or whatever. He was issued a code of conduct warning, which is the first at the Masters. The PGA Tour has been developing. a policy for competition. The Masters was the first to use it. I don't know what that means. I don't know what happens if he gets a second penalty. Like if it's in the NBA, do you wind up and you get a tee, you get thrown out, whatever. But such a brat. Just oh my god. It's and at the Masters, no, no, no. And this is a kid a kid, not a kid anymore. He's just a kid to old guys like you and me. Remember he spit in the cup years ago. It's come on, dude.
I'm curious where they go. I mean, does Mark Calcavecchia get called back for using his cell phone and he got kicked off the course? It wouldn't surprise me. And actually, I'm kind of hoping that the Masters says, look, yeah, I know you might have an automatic bid back to the Masters, but that's been revoked due to your misconduct of last year. And we're going to give you a year off and we'll determine if you come back and play in future years. I'd love to see that. See golf take that stance at the Masters. I don't want
I
to
hadn't
see
even,
it week in and week out, but at the Masters, I'm okay with it.
and I hadn't even thought about the equivalency. That's interesting. Like Calcavecchia, who wasn't even there to play, he gets kicked out for violating the electronics rule. Well, what's worse, that or what Sergio did on national TV to the course? That's an interesting way to look at it. In the end, all that matters is that Rory McIlroy won the Masters after coughing up a 6-shot lead in the third round. Actually, at one point yesterday, it was 2 shots behind Cameron Young and Justin Rose. Before we get to other things about Rory, none of that matters, does it? No one's going to be saying in 5, 10, 20 years when they're going over the very short list, which we'll talk about in a moment, of 2 back-to-back Masters lists. Nobody's going to be saying, well, yeah, but in 2026, Rory coughed up a 6-shot lead. He really should have. Nobody cares. What they care about is he won. Or am I missing anything here?
No, that's all anyone's going to remember. And to me, he made it interesting. I mean, he didn't play well early on Saturday. He came back to the field. It made Sunday that much more enjoyable because if he had stayed in a 6 or 8 stroke lead through the thing, we would still in 5 years be saying he won back to back. So it did make a difference, but as a fan, it made it much more entertaining.
And the opposite is true. If he would have pulled a Greg Norman, if he would have lost yesterday, if he would have like really blown, then everybody remembers that, and he's got that monkey on his back. And he did have a fun quote yesterday, and I don't have it in front of me, but he did basically say after the round, he's like, "Yeah, I just have to make things interesting." Because even right down to the 18th, a lot of us were going, "Is he going to do this? Is he going to do this again?" But he didn't. Now he joins Tiger Woods, Nick Faldo, and Jack Nicklaus as the only repeat winners of the Masters. That's quite a list. He also has 6 majors. Faldo, Lee Trevino, Phil Mickelson. He is working his way up that list. He's not the greatest of all time. I'm not saying that, but he's in that echelon. You start getting to Mickelson and Faldo. I always forget Trevino had 6. You're way up there. You're certainly top 10 of all time, even if he doesn't win anymore. And he looks like a guy that has a couple more majors in him. And then you start getting into that 8, 9 Tom Watson realm and top 5.
I think you need to put him in that category. I still kind of throw him more in that Nick Faldo, and I have Tiger, I have Jack Nicklaus, I have those two like way above everyone else. But he's put a solid career together. As you said, 6 majors, just winning one major gives you that credibility when you get into multiples and now you're above 5, you're in that 6. If he finishes with 8 or 9, you have to throw him in with one of the all-time greats of all time.
It's funny. I was thinking over the weekend too. It's like one major is all it takes for you to have a very lucrative post golf career as an announcer. Just one. Frank Nobilo and who's doing CBS? Is it not? It's not Trevor Immelman. Is it? It's somebody who's won once. And amazing. That's an extraordinary accomplishment. You win a major and you're right away in a whole other club in golf. When you win 6, and Rory disappeared professionally for how many years where he wasn't winning anything, and now he's come all the way back and is winning again. And yeah, he's teetering for me on that top 5 level. He's got to do a little bit more, but he's right there.
And he's won them all. He's won the Grand Slam. He's won every major out there, which is another accomplishment because you can't have, hey, look, I play great, say the Masters, but it's the same course. It fits your style. You know the course well, and you can do something. But you're playing all the different courses, even the Open. that you have to win, which is over in Europe and playing all the different courses. Any golfer, any tennis player that wins all the Grand Slam events, to me, has to go down as one of the all-time greats in that discussion.
And especially because you those two examples in particular, golf and tennis, that all four places they play are completely different. You need to have it is a completely, staying with golf, different game to win the Open than it is to win the Masters, than it is to win the US Open. Those are three complete, and then the PJ. Those are three completely different types of styles. And the tennis Grand Slam, the bugaboo for so many of them, can't play on clay and they can't win. And that's why the ones that do win it are, yes, like you said, right away, you're in the upper echelon of the greatest of all time. Maybe Rory is already in the top 5 or 5 plus kind of thing. Either way, thanks so much for being here, listening, watching. You can do it anywhere. You go to theradnetwork.com. You can see how to get us on YouTube. We appreciate it so much. Whether you do so live or after the fact, you can always email us. We got so much more to talk about. We'll go through the NBA playoffs, how the NHL has a few things more to decide. The NFL is in the news like they always are, and more after this.
Rob and Steve continue next, only on theradnetwork.com.
If you go to AdvantageSteam.com, which you should, at the top of the page, you'll see the Services tab. Click on it, and you'll see that Advantage Steam does carpet and upholstery cleaning. They protect fabric and fiber. They clean and seal tile and grout. They polish natural stone. They clean rugs, especially those really nice ones from foreign countries. And they treat urine damage. And not just urine, but vomit and feces. Ew. Yuck. I assume if you need that service, you either have children or pets or you live in a frat house. But either way, they'll take care of you. Of course, Advantage Steam also applies MicroSeal. And if you don't know what that is by now, then you just suck. Joel is the local small business owner of AdvantageSteam.com. He's a lifelong maggot, and he's treated, cleaned, protected, polished, and microsealed the homes of countless members of the RAD team over the years, various RAD studios, and of course, Williams Manor. And I hate admitting this, but he is a genuinely really great, nice guy. In fact, if you tell him I said that, you'll get 0% off all services. So go to AdvantageSteam.com. Click on Make an Appointment, enter in your available dates and any comments, like maybe type, "Rob said you're a really great, nice guy. Please give me 0% off." And they will get you all set up. Just go to AdvantageSteam.com. That's AdvantageSteam.com.
Hello, the Rob and Steve Sports Show is many minutes away, right here on theradnetwork.com.
The first time Corey walked into my home, I came around the corner, extended my right hand to shake it, and said to him, "Wow, you're big." And that would be Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong intentionally. Quick, Q-U-I-K Dumpsters.com. That's QuickDumpsters.com. Corey's yet another maggot launching his own locally owned and operated business, and boy, did I need him, and really we all do. Things pile up, you get frustrated, you keep saying, "We need to make a dump run." Pretty soon it's more than a dump run, and now you need to rent a truck or have one of those ugly upside down box cars parked in front of your house that you fill up yourself. Or you do like I did, you call Corey at QuickDumpsters.com. In my case, my house had fallen into complete disarray as my late wife Christina had lost her 2-year battle with congestive heart failure, and amongst the many things left were gathering her things and finding what to donate, what had to just go in that pile of stuff where we were both going, "Why did we ever buy this?" mess. And it all could have been so overwhelming had Corey not just walked in, taken charge, and removed dozens of boxes of total junk, unusable dog kennels, desks that were falling apart, a worthless old smoker that couldn't be fixed, bag after bag of crap, and I can't remember what else. He was quick, spelled wrong, Q-U-I-K, quiet and clean. Well, he wasn't clean. I mean, he was. But I'm not commenting on his hygiene. I meant that his work was clean. He swept everything when he was done, and the house looked like he'd never even been there. Corey's the real deal, and I couldn't be more proud and happy to call him a brand new advertiser. His story's incredible, his dedication unmatched, and his motivation to succeed larger than he is, and that's saying something. Quotes are free. You don't even have to have them over to your house. Just send him some pics or videos, and you'll get your price, schedule your day and time, and watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Go to quickdumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com. Quick, Q-U-I-K, dumpsters.com.
This is Sports Talk, how it should be. Rob and Steve do it right. They actually talk sports. Email the show at ras@theradnetwork.com.
We got this email, ras@theradnetwork.com. It's the Rob and Steve Show. Thanks so much for writing. This is from Ben. This just came in over the weekend. This is one of those things, it still lingers as we head towards the NFL draft. A week from Thursday. We're getting down to that. Fine. We'll start talking about it like a week from today when it's relevant to be talking about who may or may not get drafted and such, but there's still angst over what are our final rosters going to look like. And Ben wrote in and said, I want to hear Rob and Steve's take on the whole Max Crosby trade fiasco with the Ravens. The Ravens knew he was injured prior to the trade, and of course it was pending a physical, but by all accounts, he's on track with his rehab. So what's the deal, and will Crosby remain a Raider? I know we've touched on this a little bit. It is one of these stories from the offseason that still makes a lot of people kind of scratch their heads and go, what was really going on here? The public presentation that I'm seeing from everybody is that Max Crosby will be a Raider. That's good for the Raiders. We've discussed why on this show. They need that kind of presence. There is always that lingering thing, though, of, yeah, but they were willing to trade him once. Is he going to stay a Raider? Etc. Before we get to the Ravens side of it, Steve, are you buying what the Raiders and Max Crosby are selling, that Max Crosby's a Raider this season?
Yeah, Max Crosby on the whole has really been loyal to this organization. He's always said he didn't want to go anywhere. And that only changed because the Raiders front office decided they wanted to sit him the last 2 weeks of the season and to now allow him to play when he really wanted to play. But I think if they can get past that part, Max Crosby, okay, maybe he can accept it. And I love that fiery part of Max Crosby. That's what makes him such a great player that he is. And this is the type of player you want playing for your team. I don't want to sit. If I can walk and I can play and I can contribute to my team in any sport, I should be out there, which is why tanking and rest management in the NBA bothers me so much. But everything, and I live in Las Vegas, everything I have heard is both sides are saying the right things. I believe he's going to be a Raider. I don't see them trading him anytime soon. And that to me falls under, I believe the Ravens hurt his trade value. The Raiders were getting two first-round picks for him, but now you're looking going, he's damaged goods. We got to see how he performs and what level he's at before the Raiders are even going to be able to consider getting an offer of that two first-round picks. So I think they're stuck with each other for right now. I hope Max Crosby goes out and is dominating on defense like we've seen him the last many years and just destroys the opponents, because other than Max Crosby, Gentee at running back, maybe Mendoza can do something, but the Raiders season's still going to be long this year.
See, that was the perfect lead in, because I know you have Raider PTSD just in general, not because they're in Las Vegas. They're just not many can argue with the fact that they're not well managed and such. But there's a lot of people that are high on the Raiders this year. Not like, oh, they're gonna win the West, but that you get your quarterback in there. You got Crosby still there. You got Tom Brady in the mix. There are rumblings that the Raiders could start to turn the corner this year, a la the San Jose Sharks, and become a team that a lot of us are going 2027. They might really matter, and you seem to be a little resistant to that, or am I misreading it?
No, you are, but you're not bringing up the numbers. First of
Okay.
all, Kansas City, Denver, and the LA Chargers play in that division. That is a great division. You could make the Raiders good enough, say, to win the NFC South or the AFC South. They're still finishing fourth in that division because where they play. Yes, I believe they are taking that path like the San Jose Sharks. And if you remember, they were terrible. And then I said, the next year, look, they're going to improve, but you're not going to see it in the record. I think the Raiders are going to improve. I think you will see it a little bit in the record because I'd hate to say the Raiders have the worst record in all of football again this year. I don't wish that on anybody, and I do believe the Raiders will be improving. But are they really going to surpass the Broncos, Chargers, or Chiefs? And you had mentioned, oh, maybe they get 7 wins, maybe they get to the playoffs. Then you went over their schedule, and it's just they can improve 30% from what they were a year ago, which is a great improvement. They're still not going to be in playoff contention, and that's the sad part. 2 years, maybe if Mahomes can't fully rebound, but if Mahomes stays healthy, they're never going to overtake the Chiefs with Andy Reid and what they do. Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers always finds a way to be very, very competitive. And Bo Nix is just starting to come into his own unless he falls off the table with Sean Payton and the Broncos. The Broncos are going to be good. And I would be more worried as a Raider fan of, look, we've greatly improved, but it doesn't show on the standings in the newspaper that we've greatly improved. And then the Raiders say, look, we're still a last place team. Maybe we got to blow it up again. I
Hmm.
think they need to just take what they have, continue to grow. Every player that leaves, bring in a player that's better, but it's unrealistic to think they're making the playoffs this year. They might be able to compete the following year, but they're not making the playoffs this year.
They do have to. I agree that if what would be nice for Raider fans would be to at least see them be competitive in what looks like it could be a 10 or 11 loss season. 'Cause you're absolutely right. I did throw out 7. And I think I said, hey, look, what if the Chiefs are really more banged up than we think? Could the Raiders even sneak into a wild card? Blah blah blah. And you're right. When we went over the schedule and the actual schedule dates and all that were about a month away, but we know who their opponents are, and that's where things fell apart. And the other thing is, I'm looking at it again. Is the games where we had the wins? A lot of them are on the road, and we're saying they have to go somewhere in order to get some of these wins. But I wonder, are we making a mistake if we just seed 6 losses right away? That there's no way. I mean, the division games, they're tough, and are we sure the Raiders can't steal a game from the Chiefs or the Chargers, because that right away gives them a little bit more gravitas.
And I agreed with where you started this whole thing. The thing I want to see out of the Raiders isn't their wins at the end of the year. Are they competitive? Did they play through the whole game? Did they not quit and they played their, 18th, 17th game as hard as they played their first few games? Are they prepared week in and week out with a great game plan to keep them involved? And I go to the Lions, like Dan Campbell. That one year they ended up winning, I think, the last 4 games of the season. They played hard all the way through the whistle. Their record wasn't all that good, but he changed the culture. Those are the things that this year I would want to see from the Raiders. Are you prepared game in and game out? Are you playing hard all the way through the whistle on every play of every game, even at the end of the season when you know it doesn't matter? And if they're doing those things, even if they only win 4 games, that is a big step for the culture and the direction of the organization, which I would hope they then carry that through to the next season.
If you missed it, and we did it on the fly, and I don't remember exactly where we put their wins, but I did see it. I said, yeah, that's about five. I think that four of the five we had on the road, but the Raiders will play at home this year, and I do think we kind of seeded the six losses in the AFC West. But at home, they play obviously Denver, Kansas City, the Chargers. Then they play Buffalo and the Rams. It's hard to even say that that in the Denver Chiefs Chargers, I do wonder if they can steal one at home there. But then Buffalo, the Rams, Seattle, and then the other two where you can go, well, maybe one of them is Tennessee, who I'm really high on this year. I think they're going to be vastly improved, not just because of their division. I think they're making the right moves, as we talked about last week. And the other one was Miami at home. That's what the Raiders have at home. So there might be maybe 2.5 wins at home. On the road, they got to go to Denver, Kansas City, LA, obviously. And then the ones that I think we went, okay, this is where they get to five-ish. Arizona, Cleveland, Saints, and Jets. They also have to go to New England and San Francisco. It is hard to see. I can see seven, but no more. And I wouldn't predict seven. I wouldn't put money on it or anything like that.
Seven is they had the best possible season they could have, and everything went right. They got the calls, they didn't have the injuries, they were well prepared every week. You could get to seven, and I could give you the seven even at 7-10, not making the playoffs, a vastly improved team, and that's if their season goes perfect.
And that's where I like that outcome better. I'm not a Raider fan. I'm a Niner fan. So I'm just trying to be as objective as possible. I like that outcome better for Raider fans. And because I do believe the NFL is better when the Raiders are good. They're one of those legacy franchises. If they can win seven, it's better than looking really good and winning four or five for the reasons you brought up. Do they panic? Do they blow it up? Do they screw it up? Because they don't see, wait a minute, we're just being the San Jose Sharks. Kind of thing. A couple other NFL notes. No surprise here, the Atlanta Falcons picked up running back Bijan Robinson's fifth-year contract option Friday. Fourth in the league in rushing last season, led the league in scrimmage yards. Everybody expects him to get a contract extension this offseason. The running back position is back. Steve and I remember a time of Roger Craig and Barry Sanders and all the great running backs. I could spend the rest of the show just naming them. And then we stopped using them, and now they're back. They have been for, 5-ish years. I didn't realize Bijan Robinson's only 24, and he is easily one of the top five backs in the league. No, it's a no-brainer for the Falcons to keep him, obviously.
Yeah, but how big is that contract going to be? And the problem is Bijan Robinson is so important to that offense that he's involved in every aspect. And go to Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders ran the ball, but Barry Sanders didn't catch a ton of passes out of that backfield. So he got all the wear and tear by running the ball. Bijan's in on pretty much, it seems like, every offensive play. And even though he's 24, that does work to his advantage. But I believe there's only so many carries in a running back. You could be Billy Sims and hit the NFL. I swear it was at 24, but I think he was 21. Well, he was probably he could have been 24 when he came out of Oklahoma as the Heisman Trophy. But you only have so many carries in you. And that's why you get your running back, your first contract, and right before that running back contract's up, you bring in another running back because you really don't want to give the second contract to that running backs unless they're the Adrian Petersons of the world, Saquon Barkley's of the world. I mean, just that premier running back. That's the only time I believe you really should go into that second contract with the player. But then you will notice it will decline before they get to the end of that contract.
The other thing too is, and I admit I'm total chalk on this. I have no faith in the Falcons. I don't believe in them as a team, as an organization, etc. I like Michael Penix Jr. I don't know that he can stay healthy. He hasn't demonstrated that he can. I don't think Tua is the answer. It's like Bijan's kind of stuck in purgatory. That's the other thing there, and that's one of the reasons he also gets used so heavily. And I just, to me, look, they're in a terrible division. The Falcons are, but I don't. The Falcons would be one of the surprise teams, like for you with the Raiders, if they won more than 7. If the Falcons do anything other than win the division at 6-6, which that or 6-6, that math doesn't add up. Um, but like at 8-9, other than me going, well, what happened to the other teams? And I don't see much from the Falcons this season yet.
And I'm still not convinced that signing Tua was the right move. I
Yeah.
personally think it was a bad move. If Penix is your guy, and that's the reason you drafted him 9th or whatever it was in the first round when you brought him out because you felt he was your guy, you had Kirk Cousins sitting there, and yes, he gets hurt. But let's pull the injury part out. He hasn't played a ton of football in the NFL. If he starts to struggle, you're going to have all the calls for Tua, and they're going to want to put in Tua. So you never fully gave him an opportunity. Look, the job's yours. Go out and play, be comfortable. Don't look over your shoulder because he always had Kirk Cousins. Now he has Tua. And I just think the Falcons have blown it in that same sense. They repeated their mistake of the first time. Yes, they signed Cousins, but then they should not have gone Penix. I still don't believe they should have gone Penix at the time. I couldn't believe it. But if Penix truly was your guy, why are you bringing in Tua? Just look, this is where we're at. If you go down, our season's over anyway. So I don't want the veteran there. I don't want the fans yelling and screaming that they want Tua to come in anytime that you struggle. I think they just continue to make the same mistake.
You're always preaching depth across all sports. Last week, the Niners signed somebody. I don't remember who. But I mentioned, well, it's not the kind of guy I'm going to text all my Niner fan friends about and go, hey, how exciting. And you pointed out depth. And the Niners coming off a season where it's amazing they got as far as they did with all of their injuries. They seem, and I'm biased because I am a Niner fan lifelong, it seems like they are just adding depth upon depth upon depth. Free agent cornerback Jack Jones, who spent last season in Miami, started all 17 games for the Dolphins, had 77 tackles, had an interception, 6 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles. He was a 4th-round pick 4 years ago. He visited the 49ers and a few hours later said, yep, I'm in, and agreed to terms with San Francisco. I don't have the terms. Who cares? Depth, more depth in San Francisco.
You're picking up a young player, 4 years in the league, had 77 tackles last year, started every game, and I don't think the Niners are putting him in as a starter. But when injuries hit and you need to go to 5, well, everybody plays 5 deep backs, but you got to go to 6. You got to go to that dime. You have a nagging injury. That type of player to me is ideal. He has the starting experience. He has the playing experience, 77 tackles. I would think he would have been more heavily recruited to this point, not just sat there and waited for the 49ers. But to me, another great move by the Niners, adding that depth of a young, experienced player that's not costing them much money. And sorry to say it again, but this is where the front offices and the football people, the teams that have them, separate themselves from the teams that don't.
And not to go all load management on us, but this is also the kind of player that when the Niners play the Cardinals twice this year, they can go, maybe he gets a little bit more time because we might not need him. We might not need the top tier of the secondary out there. We'll see. Okay, the NFL, they're in this dispute with the refs. And more it is starting to seem like our instincts are right. This is not necessarily about the money. This is a lot about the league's desire to improve at least the appearance of officiating. And that seems to be the big collective bargaining hammer. More and more sources and things are saying, yeah, the refs just don't want to give up complete control. The owners already said we're gonna bring in New York more. New York's gonna have the ability to talk to the refs and say you didn't even flag this guy for pass interference, but he absolutely, that was a hit to the head. He speared him, whatever. He should be ejected. Things that were missed last year, where the league came in after the fact and suspended players or fined them, where they can step in and do some things like that. And how far does the league really want to go is one of the things that's being speculated. And to that end, we go back to the UFL, which we mentioned a couple weeks ago, the UFL, United Football League, whatever. They have this new thing. Was it a 60-point field goal? 60-yard field goal gets you 4 points. That's a little comically for me, but a lot of the NFL should do that. Whatever. But what about the way the UFL is handling officiating? Uh, Conversations between the officials can be heard by the audience. And they got two former refs that are working these games. Dan Blandino can talk directly to the officials. That's part of the broadcast. Mike Pereira is in the command center, and you can hear what they're saying. Pereira says, quote, it eliminates some of the angst and hopefully conspiracy theories and all that other stuff where it's just people going through a process trying to make a decision, and you're going to hear all of it and see everything. I think that helps. I think the NFL could do more of that. I haven't watched UFL. I'm scarred from UFL and all these others wannabe NFL leagues. A lot of people seem to think the UFL is doing a lot right. That one, I would love that. I would love to be able to hear that watching NFL games to try to. I might still scream at the TV. Go, what are they talking about? But at least I can hear what's being said.
Full transparency as a fan, we all have to love that. Use the technology, use this ability. Don't keep us in the dark. But you think if umpires don't like the ABS system, throw them all on a microphone so we can hear what they're really saying at all times. I don't see them buying into that under any circumstance. I would dig my feet in if I was an umpire or a referee on that far more than I would be digging my feet in on New York assisting in play calls from the booth because I'm still within them and they don't, you know, I'm CB Buckner. I just missed it. I didn't see if the guy stepped on the bag at all. Like, you want a fan to hear? Yeah, I got distracted. I was looking at something else and I didn't see it, so I can't really give you an opinion on what really happened on that play. As a fan, I'd love it. That would be full transparency. No chance umpires and referees in any of our sports are going to allow themselves to be mic'd up and we can hear everything at all times.
But if they know they're mic'd up, then it's on them to not say something stupid, like, "Oh, I was looking at I was looking at that hot blonde behind the dugout in the third row." I mean,
Okay, and how many athletes, coaches, and
yeah.
say things they shouldn't say because they get caught up in the moment and they weren't thinking about it. And now you're putting it on live TV at the time in a situation. For me, I would be digging in way harder on that. That's let New York, let me become a supervisor. I'm no longer the detail play in, play out guy. I got no problem. You're going to pay me the same amount of money and I'm a supervisor and you kind of help and assist me. I'm all for it.
You are right on a couple levels. One, I don't see these established, powerful ump and ref unions ever agreeing to going this far. Two, it does happen, and one of the things that people become aware of very quickly, like is if you do TV, and I've done a little TV over the years, you've done some, and you learn quickly. Oh, wait a minute, the mics are off. We're in commercial, but the whole booth, the whole truck can hear anything I say, and and the cameras, they're still hot, so and it can leak to tomorrow, 5 years from now, and pretty soon there's a clip from Steve Mickelson was on the set of blah blah blah, and here's what he said during a commercial break because it lives forever, and so you learn very quickly to shut your mouth. But human nature rather, like you said, still plays a role. And you're playing a sport, you're surrounded by a bunch of guys. Back to my example, players, coaches, whatever. Hey, look at that chick in the third row. What would you like to do to her, kind of thing. And then it becomes, oh, we're all toxically male and rapists and everything. So you're right. It is fraught with problems, but it doesn't detract from your beginning of as much transparency as you can give us is what we should have, and especially with the sports betting aspect of it. Although the minute you start hearing a ref who's arguing, say, no, that's not what happened there. And then do the refs get targeted even more because it's like, oh, well, he's only saying that because he's got money on the Raiders or something like that.
I think the conspiracy theories are only going to be worse now that, you have the NFL partnered in with, sports leagues. They technically are partnered in a sports book and they have ownership on it. I was always surprised we didn't hear more talk of the Kenneth Walker touchdown run in the Super Bowl, that the flag came out and that would have put the game over for the total and everything else. And I can tell you that would have been great for the public and sports books nationwide, because so many people had Seahawks and over.
Mm.
And thankfully, the reason any books made any money is the game stayed under. But that flag doesn't come out. I mean, I'll tell you right then and there, I said, thank you, NFL. As soon as that flag hit the field, I'm like, yes, call it back. Something, be on the Seahawks, bring that touchdown back and help us as a book out.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all this conspiracy theories, scrutiny, et cetera, is only going to continue to grow regardless for so many reasons. And there's sociological issues we could discuss and become very boring. One last note on the NFL. Like usual, maybe Steve, you were ahead of the curve. The NFL is getting more and more scrutiny from the public. I'm not talking about the antitrust thing that's going on right now. That's boring. It matters, but it's boring. But more and more, the NFL is facing a public backlash over their ongoing pivot to streaming. And yet, the NFL finds itself kind of stuck here. On one hand, you can tell they're like, yeah, we're the NFL. You'll pay. You'll pay. And then there's this part of the NFL that's going, well, maybe we have reached a limit. Here's why I bring it up, because it was leaked over the weekend that the league is shopping a 5-game package of games for this season to televise. Per a source, there's 3 different platforms that are in the mix for the 5-game mini slate. But the NFL is acknowledging quietly that they may benefit from keeping those 5 games of the mini package on broadcast TV, or do they at least do it as a free stream on YouTube because they are aware of the scrutiny? I don't know where it's going to end, but the reporting is that the NFL has presented a menu consisting of more than 5 potential games, and the bidders have the ability to pick the 5 specific games they want. The options include that lovely Week 1 game in Australia, a Thanksgiving Eve game that's not official, but it is, a second Black Friday game. Oh, we're getting 2 now for the day after Thanksgiving. A Christmas Eve game. Remember, we heard that announcement. They're going now to 3 games on Christmas, just like they did on Thanksgiving, amongst others that haven't been released. And again, whoever wins or whoever bids the highest gets to choose which of the 5 they want. The 3 that are involved are YouTube. Now, they could work a deal where they do a free stream. Netflix, that ain't going to be free. And Fox proper, like the Fox network. And so the NFL kind of has 1.5 options for these 5 games, or this little mini package, to where they could say, look, this is either everybody gets Fox or YouTube free. Big deal. You don't have a smart TV. Well, can you watch on your tablet? It's kind of a half-ass sell. Oh, Netflix, well, they spent the most, so they're going to get it. So the train is rolling, and people are starting to go, that Steve guy's right. You're pricing us out of being able to watch our favorite sport. And when you're talking about event games, like the 3rd Christmas game, the 2nd Black Friday game, you're home, it's the holidays, football is part of who we are. Even if it's not your team, people are getting more and more frustrated.
Yes, I, as a fan, love the idea of spreading more games out like they're considering, because it gives more one-on-one games as opposed to a Sunday morning and I got 10 games playing at the same time. Even though I have the ability to watch all 10 at once, most people do not. But if I'm YouTube and I am Fox, I'm already paying you how much money for my current contracts, which I believe have to start with a B as in billions. And
Right.
now you're trying to sell me even more. This is like, and maybe it's a bad example, but this is like buying the new car, and I got the new car, but now for the radio to work, I got to pay even more money for my radio because I got to have a subscription for that. I know I'm already paying for the maps and the navigation, but it's like, okay, now we're gonna, if you want automatic door locks, then we're gonna charge you for that. it's like, how many things would I've already bought it and paid for are you going to make me pay for add-ons when you've already taken this much money from me?
And I as just a fan and not considering the cost, and you have your 28 billion screens at your sportsbook office and such, and I have the means to have all these streaming services, so it's not about personally affecting me, but we do have to consider how it affects families and everybody else in America. But as a fan, just only the idea of 5 of the 6 days of Thanksgiving weekend being football is so intriguing to me. Thanksgiving Eve, Thanksgiving night, not and 2 games on Black Friday, a full slate on Sunday. Oh, and Monday Night Football. It's like you're in heaven as an NFL fan. But and that's how they've been thinking you're going to pay for it. And now it seems like they're at least saying maybe we need to slow our roll a little bit, which would be nice if they actually did it. This is all premature. Who knows if they're going to do it?
It'd be really nice if they slowed the roll a lot, not just a little bit. And just look, okay, hit me every 5 years with something in addition. But it's like monthly now, it seems that we're doing this. And I didn't watch anywhere close to the NBA this season, and it wasn't because of tanking. It was because every night, as I okay, time to watch TV, I got no clue where the NBA games are. Am I in Prime? Am I on ESPN? Am I? And it was like Peacock or whatever, and it was frustrating. And honestly, after I think the second or third week, I'm like, look, if I can't find it within 10 seconds, I'm not searching. I'm not.
Hour 2 of the Rob and Steve Show next.
It's the Rob and Steve Sports Show, only on the radnetwork.com.
It's that time of the year again, spring cleaning time. Much like New Year's resolutions, spring cleaning is something we swear we're going to get to and then we never follow through on. And one of the reasons is how overwhelming it can be. You start to clean up, and then pretty soon you realize you have way more trash than you can just throw into your bins and put at the curb for the garbage company. You have enough junk that you need to make a half-dozen trips to the dump, and then you go, oh, we don't even own a truck. Nor do you have the time or the energy, so you just say screw it again and no spring cleaning. So this year, call my man Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong on purpose. It makes him stand out. Plus, it makes you think of chocolate milk. QUIK Dumpsters.com. Quick Dumpsters, QUIK Dumpsters.com is their website. Corey and his team came to my house recently, hauled away dozens of boxes filled with just stone-cold trash, unusable and worthless old vacuum cleaners, appliances that couldn't be fixed, and just random crap from around the house. QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is QUIK. We're in and out of my place in less than 30 minutes. They checked in with me multiple times to make sure they were taking the right stuff. They were friendly, kind, professional, and finished off the job by making the house cleaner than when they started. And this may be the best part. Quotes are free, and you don't even have to have them over to your house where you get the little sales pitch and all that. Just send them some pics or videos. You get your price, schedule your day and time, and you watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Basically, you have no excuses other than your own laziness. Go to QuickDumpsters.com. That's QUIK Dumpsters. QuickDumpsters.com. Quick, QUIK Dumpsters.com. If you go to AdvantageSteam.com, which you should, at the top of the page, you'll see the Services tab. Click on it, and you'll see that Advantage Steam does carpet and upholstery cleaning. They protect fabric and fiber. They clean and seal tile and grout. They polish natural stone. They clean rugs, especially those really nice ones from foreign countries. And they treat urine damage. And not just urine, but vomit and feces. Ew. Yuck. I assume if you need that service, you either have children or pets or you live in a frat house. But either way, they'll take care of you. Of course, Advantage Steam also applies MicroSeal. And if you don't know what that is by now, then You just suck. Joel is the local small business owner of AdvantageSteam.com. He's a lifelong maggot, and he's treated, cleaned, protected, polished, and micro-sealed the homes of countless members of the RAD team over the years, various RAD studios, and of course Williams Manor. And I hate admitting this, but he is a genuinely really great, nice guy. In fact, if you tell him I said that, you'll get 0% off all services. So go to AdvantageSteam.com. Click on Make an Appointment, enter in your available dates and any comments, like maybe type, Rob said you're a really great, nice guy. Please give me 0% off. And they will get you all set up. Just go to AdvantageSteam.com. That's AdvantageSteam.com.
At the Rob and Steve Sports Show, we only support responsible sports betting and gambling. With that said, according to Rob's favorite Chinese restaurant, your lucky numbers today are 12, 14, 17, 20, 28, and 36. Good luck. Email us your results at ras@theradnetwork.com.
To ras at theradnetwork.com. It's from Jeff. We'll read it in two parts. Says, you guys were talking about being in bowling leagues. I was just wondering, how serious did you take it? I play recreational hockey, and some guys treat it like they're in the NHL, and others more like of the mindset, hey, I've got a wife and kids, a job, etc. I'm just here to have fun for a few hours. And if it goes bad in terms of win-loss, they don't really care, and some just fall in the middle. That's a little different than bowling in that last part of, hey, I have a wife and kids and a job, etc. There's not many injuries you're going to get in bowling that are going to cause you to be wind up in a coma. This is something I didn't learn. I wasn't really able to wrap my head around this, not having kids, until, God, I hope I get the name right. Was it Brian Snow or Stowe, that the horrible incident, the Giants fan who was like beaten into a coma, right, or something like that, and in the parking lot. And I was talking to a friend my age at the time when it happened, who was a dad, and we were talking about the why didn't this happen? Why didn't he do this? And he said to me, he said, Rob, I know you don't have kids, and I'm not playing that card on you, but everything changes. Everything changes. You can be the manliest man. You can have all this testosterone, but you immediately consider when you're in certain situations, wait a minute, I got to get home to my kids. I got to be here for my kids. I got to take care of my kids. Oh, and I got a wife to support, which that one I could relate to. It's then I went, whoa, you're right. And I was running off that old school idea of me man, me have to fight back, me do this kind of thing. So playing rec hockey, yeah, I could understand why a lot of guys are like, I don't want to be bashed. I'm not bashing you into the boards, but that's tough when other guys are doing it to you. But take that out of it. How serious? Let's see. Okay, so how serious at bowling? I don't know, right? I mean, we want to win. I think Steve and I both bowled in pretty competitive leagues, relatively speaking, and you don't want to let your team down. And, I've been known to kick a ball return a few times now and then, all the stupid crap that we do. But it couldn't ruin my night or ruin my day, but I did want to win. That's why you're there. Yes, to have fun, but that's why you're there. So I guess I'm in the middle based on Jeff's description.
Yes, and I would put myself in the middle. I bowled through college. Our team at San Diego State was actually ranked third in the nation at one time. When I got there, we weren't very good. By the time I left, we were one of the better programs in the country, and it was fun. The thing I learned in college was so much of the game is mental. And you can have the physical ability, you can be very good at it. And most everyone I bowled with, and Randy Peterson bowled at the time. I mean, there were several players who went on to play, bowl in the the PBA. But the difference was that mental game. I never had it. I just happened to be good at it. I realized early on, look, I qualified. I could have been a PBA card holder, could have shot the regionals, should have done that stuff, maybe with hopes of being on the PBA tour. And a friend of mine, Todd Thompson, he bowled on the PBA tour. He won a title, at least one. I am friends with several people who won titles in the PBA, But I knew going through the college and that competition, I'm a donator. I would never win. All I would do is put up my entry fee week in and week out. I could never make a living at it. And I accepted that. So actually, when I finished college, it was really that turn pro or quit. And I quit because, again, I knew I could never make it on the PBA tour or even compete at the regionals because my game wasn't there mentally. I quit for a while. My buddy I bowled with in college, uh, excellent bowler. He owned pro shops. He owned like 6 in San Diego, and he ended up buying the pro shop up in Reno with another guy. The other guy was out of Las Vegas, another fantastic bowler. And after a year, that guy wanted out. So I ended up buying half of the pro shop. So I own the pro shop. Well, now that I own it, I got a bowl, but I bowled because I needed to sell bowling equipment and get to know all the bowlers and do stuff like that. And Rob, we were friends during that time. I drilled several bowling balls for you. But once I left college, I knew it was recreation for me. Don't get me wrong, it didn't irritate me. And the bowling center I bowled at here was called High Sierra, and they had like 6 steps coming out of the bowling alley down to the parking lot. And there were times when I bowled bad that my bag, and I carried a 6 bowling ball bag. There were times my bag didn't hit any steps. It went airborne off the top and it landed in the parking lot. And granted, I had a handle, so it wasn't like I dumped it and crashed and burned. But there were times that I would just be so upset walking out that I would just yank that bag and it wouldn't hit any stairs. It would fly the whole way into the parking lot. So there was that competitive. Yes, you want to win, you want to perform well, but I knew I was a recreational bowler at that time.
To this day, by the way, still the best bowling balls I ever had drilled and fitted were those balls. It's still true. The ones that drive me nuts, Steve, are the ones that everything is completely over the top serious. Pool, darts, bar games. I got a pool table at my house. I want to win, but I don't get mad. I ain't throwing the stick, and you ain't throwing the stick either at my house. But you see these guys that you pool hall. Come on, have some fun. Not every life's a competition. Oh, dude, you're gonna have a heart attack. Those are the ones that get me.
And I agree. We need to learn how to be good sports. We all want to win. I want to win it. And I'll tell you, my kids learn because my wife is very competitive. Anyone who's ever met her and spent some time with her, but she is a wonderful sport. We play these games all the time and she wants to win. At no time with my kids in any game did we ever permit them to win on purpose. We did not cheat. We taught our kids if you win, you earned it, but I am not going to sit here and let you win at a game just to make you feel better because that's not how it works. And we are all just recreational. Yes, I want to win a pool, but I'm not going to ever be playing pool for money. I learned early on if you aren't playing scratch golf by the time you're 16, you better just learn to enjoy the game because you're never going to make any money and you're never going to be any good. And I think that's a difference as I learned this very early in life and understand because my dad owned a bowling alley. My parents will tell you stories on how I'm like 4 years old, 3 years old, shooting pool, and my cue stick was a bridge because I was too little, and the pool table was up to my neck. But people would come up and say, I bet you a nickel you can't make this shot. And I would do stuff like that. We've all, if you're a competitive bowler, we have all bowled pot games. I have been bowling pot games since I was like 8 years old. That's what we did. So you have that competitive part, but you need to be a true sport. No throwing the pool cues and just accept when you get beat, you get beat. And the person was better than you.
Part two of Jeff's email is more in your wheelhouse, Steve, although with a couple of asterisks. He says, I'm going to Reno right when the NHL playoffs start. I wanted to see if you think there's a lower seed worth putting a few bucks on. Well, we don't do specific gambling references, but we can tell you some things that we're looking for or teams that we're watching in the NBA. Like Steve's been saying, I don't know about Charlotte. I'm not sure that people want to play Charlotte, those kind of things. Now, he says, for instance, both Philly and Ottawa will be lower seeds, but are red hot. Now, that's a little premature in that the Flyers they play the Hurricanes tonight, big night in the NHL. A win for them of any variety does clinch their spot in the playoffs and a first round series against the Penguins, but a regulation loss for Philly makes the Caps Blue Jackets game on Tuesday very interesting. It makes the Flyers game against the Canadiens a must win. So technically, Philly might be a team he wants to watch because they're red hot and all that, but I wanted to get the technicality out of it. But when you look at the NHL as we go into it, Steve, is there a lower seed? Because you mentioned last week about how they can sneak up on you in the NHL more than anywhere. Is there one or two lower seeds that you're going, I'm going to watch them?
Uh, Man, it's tough because I have felt all season long the Avalanche and the Stars were the two best teams in hockey. And I know you can say Carolina, but Carolina every year seems to fold in the playoffs. And it's sad because they have been so talented for the last X amount of years. Looking at that, I couldn't jump on the Ducks. Of any of them, I would probably look at Tampa Bay. Their goalie is one of the top goalies in the NHL, has been for years. If they get hot, good goaltending, power play, penalty kill, you can advance. I just think it's going to be tough for anyone to beat the Avalanche, except the Stars out of the West. And the East, I'm telling you right now, I am cheering for the Buffalo Sabres, and I cannot say that they are a longer shot, but I will be pulling for the Sabres. The second half of the season, their offense and defense, they've been one of the top scoring teams, one of the best defensive teams. They haven't been there in 14 years. And I still think you can get a good price on them because they are the Buffalo Sabres, but that is the team out of the East I would love to see make a deep run just because they haven't been there for so long. I roll back to Jack Eichel, who's on the Knights, was on that team, and he wanted to do an exploratory surgery. Sabres wouldn't let him. They were ready to bury him, and he is never going to play in the NHL. The Knights traded for him, allowed him to have the surgery, and he is still the great player that he was. But good for the Sabres for finally getting there.
There are 10 NHL games tonight. Some a little bit more intriguing than others. The San Jose Sharks, they have like this much wiggle room. Technically, it's very convoluted in terms of what they need to do and other teams that need to do. There's an opposite end to it, though, Steve, that I wanted to ask you about. Ooh, here's a barred birder tonight. The Rangers are at the Panthers. Now, the draft lottery, the Rangers are in third now for the draft lottery. The Panthers are in seventh. Is tanking a thing in the NHL like it is in the NBA and to the lesser degree the NFL? Because there's a few matchups tonight where a lot of people are saying, well, this is about draft lottery position as well, whereas otherwise the game's meaningless.
This is where I think the NHL and the NFL is different from the NBA, and I don't know how to fix it. We've talked about how they can correct tanking, but the NHL turns over so many head coaches. The NFL turns over a lot of head coaches that you will see the head coaches, look, we're playing hard because you need to show the team that you belong on this roster next year. I think all the players buy into it. They're playing hard because they want to be part of that organization and not released in the offseason. And the head coach, even when they know they're going to get fired, still continue to coach through the end of the season. And I just don't see that happening. Take the Milwaukee Bucks. Doc Rivers just got fired. You had to believe Doc Rivers knew he was getting fired in December, and that team still tanked, did absolutely nothing the whole rest of the season, did not play hard. So you don't get the coaches that are able to motivate and keep the players playing hard, and you don't have the players in the NBA playing hard through the end where you do in the NHL. So where, yes, I'm the Rangers, I want to tank, doesn't hurt my feelings if I lose. That doesn't even cross a hockey player's mind. I don't believe any of them go out on that ice without every expectation to win that game and play as hard as they can all the way through. You hear hockey players all the time who are hurt and shouldn't even be out on the ice, and you still can't drag them off the ice. Where NBA player, oh, hey, look, I got a hangnail. I'm going to take the day off.
A couple of the notes about tonight. We mentioned the convoluted road for the Sharks to even have any hope. Look, if the Kings beat the Kraken tonight, the Jets and the Sharks, they're out. Avalanche, Edmonton, Oilers dropped out of the top spot in the Pacific. They can get back there, but they got to make up a point on your Golden Knights, who host Winnipeg, and the Jets are in a similar spot to the Sharks when it comes to making a run into the playoffs. They need to win, and they need a lot of help. So there's a lot of games that still matter, but how much they matter and the way in which they do can be a little convoluted, but there are some outcomes that could make this come right down to Thursday when the season ends in the NHL.
And I think we'll still have several games that do come down right to the end. I love the Knights' spot. They play the Winnipeg Jets, then they got Seattle. So they have two easier games coming up here. They are sitting in first with a 1 point lead. I expect the Golden Knights now. And I said I didn't think they'd get there. I really expect Vegas to hold on and win that division. The Oilers just continue to blow it. And the Ducks, they lose 6 in a row. They finally won one, and yet we're back to losing our way.
You mentioned Doc Rivers. Yesterday it was reported he's departing as the head coach of the Bucks. This is like, Mike Tomlin area of, who said what, when, where. Team sources last night said there was a season-long disconnect between Doc and the players, including instances that annoyed the locker room. So now the Bucks are embarking on their third head coaching search in 3 years. They will have to pay Doc Rivers his 8-figure salary next season. We texted about this. It's like least surprising news so far. You said it's a year late and a dollar short. It was so. Look, first of all, I love Doc as an announcer. Go back to that. I thought he was really good, and they drag him out, and everybody thought, "Oh, Doc Rivers, he's gonna." And no, this was never a good move.
I agree. It was never a good move. I don't think he fit with the team from the get-go. If you remember at the time, they weren't playing very good defense. He came in, he still couldn't instill anything. And I don't think he ever connected with this team. When you hear the different stories behind the scene, I think he was there as a name. I don't think he necessarily worked that hard. I don't think the players really respected him as a head coach. I think there was a disconnect his entire time there. I would have probably fired him after his first year there. They gave him another 2 more years, but it's been dysfunctional from the get go with him.
And I don't know the linear connection between Doc leaving and Giannis's comments last night. And I think people are making a little bit too much out of Giannis's comments where he won't rule out a return to Milwaukee this summer. He only kind of sort of said that. He said, if you read the quote, it's basically, that's out of my hands. If they want me, and I don't know why they wouldn't, there's the Giannis ego. Hey, I'm open to it. So it wasn't like this condemnation of Doc. But people who have to, for some reason, there's so many people in the sports media that can't fill 2 hours, which I don't understand because we never get to everything I want us to get to. So they have to drag out. I'm just watching ESPN right now. They're doing this endlessly long thing about Giannis won't rule out return to Bucks this time. Giannis, blow it up, Milwaukee, right? Giannis got to go. You've got him go. Your dream scenario, I think, just for drama, take him to OKC and imagine what happens there. But Giannis, he's done in Milwaukee, or should be, right?
He should be. I'm not convinced he isn't. He's been with the team for how many years? He qualifies for the Supermax contract. If
Yeah.
and when it comes around, money always talks. And he can say, look, I want out of here. I want to play. They're not letting me. I don't think that was Doc Rivers' decision. Because if I'm
No.
Doc, I'm trying to win every game I can and maybe salvage my coaching here with the team. So yeah, it's not over. It's going to come down to the money. I mean, if he can get that supermax contract at 70 million a year, which he can't get from any other team, why would he leave if money is the driver? And while many players say Tom Brady has shown it, that money isn't the key. Patrick Mahomes has shown it to this point. A great, as good as they're get at their positions, but they're willing to understand the team concept and you got to share the wealth. I'm not sure Giannis has ever figured that part out either.
Well, and with the NBA being such a star-driven league and all these things that can happen off the record, it could be a twofer. Hey, Giannis, we can pay you more than anyone else. Here's your supermax. By the way, do you have a suggestion on who should be our next head coach? And now it's the double whammy. If you're Giannis, you're like, all right, I get the supermax and I get to handpick who's going to be the coach next year.
And he gets to say, I'm in the LeBron James category now as I'm running the organization.
Speaking of coaches, despite a 22-59 record that has them at the bottom of the Western Conference, the Kings retain Doug Christie for next season. They got a new general manager. His name is Scott Perry. He said that he and Kings management believe that Christie was never given a proper runway with the current roster. In fact, their projected starting lineup never played a minute together this season. So Christie's back. Next big night for the Kings, May 10th, when they figure out where they are in the top 8 selection for this loaded draft. I was never down on Doug Christie because what they say. I mean, yeah, and you've had some issues with the Kings roster anyways for a while.
I think it came in and a new GM. Let's see where they go. I still believe it falls from the ownership, and they need to get that part right. Doug Christie never had a chance. If he wasn't a legend in Sacramento, he would have been gone at the end of this year, because you see coaches who take over organizations, they never have the talent. They are never given a true chance to show their ability to coach. I'm glad the Kings stuck with him. I just feel bad for him if the new GM continues going down the path the Kings have been doing for the last several years. Let's get him some players. Let's build a roster that is talented, but yet fills the needs. I don't need to rebuild the Chicago Bulls roster as they did, and I don't need 3 players in my starting 5 who are identical players. I need to be able to have my big man, my point guard, my shooting guard. I need 5 separate players who are very good at what they do. The Kings have not had that in several years.
And he is, I will tell you from being on the ground, Doug Christie is, as Steve said, he is wildly popular to this day in Sacramento. And part of that, a lot of that is his playing time with Sacramento, his wife being on the reality show. Doug's out doing a lot of stuff, charities, he's doing endorsements. And I'm sure that's a big part of why he's going to be given another chance. And you're right, give him the right roster. And then if he screws up, then a lot of Kings fans will be like, come on, man. They handed you everything, or everything they could, being in Sacramento. Also, talking about tanking, on Friday, the NBA had 168 players sit out with injury or illness. In fact, all of the regular starters for the Thunder and Nuggets were ruled out. 14 members of the Grizzlies were held out Friday night. Every team was playing game 81, the next to last game of their season's Friday night. This is primarily, though, right, getting ready for the playoffs, gearing up for the postseason, especially. I mean, I feel bad for people that were at that, what was it, the OKC Nuggets game, and nobody played, but that's what this is all about.
Yes, and it just shows the problem with the NBA. They had the teams, they were locked into certain positions, so there wasn't any movement there. And you had 10 teams, arguably possibly more, who were tanking. So you hit the last week of the season, and what, 20 of the 30 teams weren't even playing, were resting their players either on purpose trying to lose, or the we're already locked into our spot. These are issues the NBA has to fix, figure out how to make it more competitive all the way through the end of the season. And that's what I think, as a fan, this NBA season might have been one of the worst seasons we have seen in a long time, because of the combination of the tanking and the rest management and everything else we've seen through the course of the season.
So the playoff bracket and the play-in tournament was finally solidified based on the results of Sunday games, and we start tomorrow with Miami at Charlotte. This is it, the play-in. Lose and go home. I'm assuming, Steve, with everything you've said about Charlotte, as much as we both like Miami and Spoelstra, you got to be leaning Charlotte. I personally would probably be rooting for Miami just because of how much I like Spoelstra, but I don't not like Charlotte. They've got a lot going on, and this seems like this is their game.
I think this is a big game for them. They are a 5.5-point favorite here. They're hosting a playoff game, even though the NBA might not really call this the playoffs. They're an exciting team to watch play. They can score. Kneppel, I think, should be the rookie of the year. He really transformed this team from a team going nowhere, as we saw early in the season. And then once he got in and got into the flow of this offense, and they worked to his ability, thus unleashing the ability of some of the other players on the team. It's a fun team to watch. I hope they win. I'm rooting for them in this playoffs against everyone except my Pistons team. So don't play the Pistons. But I'm kind of tired of the Heat. I just let them move on. Let's see some new teams.
Well, but that's the scary thing I was thinking for you because of where the Pistons are seated and that they'll play the 8th seed play in winner. Will they, if they wind up against Charlotte, are you nervous about, oh crap, this is the team I said nobody wants to play?
I am, and I think it wouldn't. I would be greatly disappointed if Detroit got beat. I am not telling you the Pistons are beating this team 100% confident that they will win. I'm probably in that 70% positive they could win. So who knows? I might take a flyer on the Hornets on a series price if it comes big enough out there against the Pistons and just say, hey, look, I'll get compensated either way. Either the Pistons win in advance or I get a little money in my pocket.
And then the other one tomorrow, Portland at Phoenix. I look at that and I almost chuckle. I'm like, who cares? Neither one of you is going anywhere against the Spurs, the Nuggets, OKC. To me, that's like I'm not. I mean, that's the late game tomorrow. Yeah, I'll pass. I'll find baseball.
And everything you said is true, but going into the season, nobody gave the Phoenix Suns a shot at all. This team was 45 and 37, and I don't know what their win total is, but there's no chance it was above 500. And then you have Portland with the Chauncey Billups thing, the alleged gambling, ring going on, that they lose their head coach right before the season starts. And they have played really well the second half. Two teams that should not even belong there are both there. I give both organizations credit for being in this spot. And the beauty is the winner of that game moves on into the regular playoff round.
Then what about if just jumping ahead? Not that we won't talk about them tomorrow and Wednesday, but just because since we know the playing games on Wednesday, would you agree that the Orlando at Philadelphia game? Come on, you've already said the Celtics are going, and the only way I can even get you to kind of consider it is if I say, well, what about could your Pistons sort of maybe the Knicks? Philadelphia, Orlando, no.
Yeah, both had high expectations going into the season. The Magic have actually turned it around as of late. This is a team that many people thought could make a run for that Eastern Conference with Paulo Banchero and their tall players and stuff like that, but they've never had that outside shooting. That's been their downfall. They just can't compete in today's NBA without players who consistently knock down the three. And the Sixers, Joel Embiid, like it or not, this team runs on Joel Embiid. He is out again for a big chunk of the season. When he's healthy, the Sixers are a very competitive team without him. They're mediocre at best. And don't be surprised if the Magic win this. They are on the road in Philadelphia. The Sixers are a 2-point favorite. But both of these teams, in my opinion, greatly underachieved this year.
And you made a comment last week, the other game. You made a comment about Golden State and about how you've been wondering, is the window closed? What are they going to do? When do you burn it down? And your comment was, are they really happy being a play-in team? They got the Clippers this time, and okay, fine. Maybe they win. They go into LA and they win that. But it's like it's not your dad's Golden State anymore, and it's almost sad at this point to watch them lumber along because they're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere, and it is sad. And this is one of those, you credit the organization for sticking with the players and giving that loyalty. Look, you won me 3, 4, I don't even know how many championships. They should have moved Steph Kerr 3 years ago. They should have moved Draymond Green 3, 4 years ago when they could get something for him. I'm not saying they still can't get something for Steph, but when I see Paul George go for SGA and 6 first-round draft picks, what would Steph Kerr have brought into this organization, 3 years ago when we felt that window was pretty much closing. They chased after it. They brought in Jimmy Butler. They brought in Porzingis. But they're not going to compete. We know they're not going to compete, and they've held on to their stars for too long that they're not going to get that draft haul that you would have hoped they could have gotten, which could have set this team up then to compete for the next decade. And how long do they hold on to him? Steph, does he come back next year with the Warriors, or are you able to move him for 2 first-round picks? Because if you keep him and he has another season, does pretty good, but injury riddled, and now he's 38 years old. How much are you really getting for him at that point?
And how much longer does Steve Kerr want to do this? Does he have, because like you said, with what the Warriors have set up moving forward, he's not exactly in the position to pull a Popovich and have a 3-year turnaround kind of thing. And you wonder, is this? I know we've said this, you and me, 2 and 3 years in a row now. Is this it? Is this the end of the Curry time? And then it's really blow up time in San Francisco.
Yeah, and I thought Kerr had an out like 2-3 seasons ago, didn't take
Mhm.
it. And credit to him, he remained loyal to the organization. But I think he had an out and he chose to stay. And, is he going to be Popovich, and can he go through a full rebuild? If he's that coach who loves to teach and it's teaching basketball as one of your top priorities, I think he stays, and that would be great for the Warriors. I'm not convinced he is. I think he wants to win, and it wouldn't surprise me if during this offseason he just says, hey, look, I'm going to take a step back. I need some time off. I'm a little burnt out, and I'm going to take the season off, and then I'll evaluate where I want to go from there. That would not surprise me at all if that happened at the end of the year.
And he's a natural. If he wanted to take that time off in the booth, and anybody would have him, he could be in the studio, in the booth, whatever. He's got a personality, or yeah, he can just go lie on the beach and figure it out for a year.
It's the Rob and Steve Sports Show, only on the radnetwork.com.
It's that time of the year again, spring cleaning time. Much like New Year's resolutions, spring cleaning is something we swear we're going to get to, and then we never follow through on. And one of the reasons is how overwhelming it can be. You start to clean up, and then pretty soon you realize you have way more trash than you can just throw into your bins and put at the curb for the garbage company. You have enough junk that you need to make a half dozen trips to the dump, and then you go, oh, we don't even own a truck. Nor do you have the time or the energy, so you just say screw it again, and no spring cleaning. So this year, call my man Corey from QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is spelled wrong on purpose. It makes him stand out. Plus, it makes you think of chocolate milk. QUIK Dumpsters.com. Quick Dumpsters, QUIK Dumpsters.com is their website. Corey and his team came to my house recently, hauled away dozens of boxes filled with just stone-cold trash, unusable and worthless old vacuum cleaners, appliances that couldn't be fixed, and just random crap from around the house. QuickDumpsters.com. Quick is QUIK. We're in and out of my place in less than 30 minutes. They checked in with me multiple times to make sure they were taking the right stuff. They were friendly, kind, professional, and finished off the job by making the house cleaner than when they started. And this may be the best part. Quotes are free, and you don't even have to have them over to your house where you get the little sales pitch and all that. Just send them some pics or videos. You get your price, schedule your day and time, and you watch someone else get that junk out of your house. Basically, you have no excuses other than your own laziness. Go to QuickDumpsters.com. That's QUIK. Dumpsters. QuickDumpsters.com. Quick, QUIK Dumpsters.com. If you go to AdvantageSteam.com, which you should, at the top of the page, you'll see the Services tab. Click on it, and you'll see that Advantage Steam does carpet and upholstery cleaning. They protect fabric and fiber. They clean and seal tile and grout. They polish natural stone. They clean rugs, especially those really nice ones from foreign countries. And they treat urine damage. And not just urine, but vomit and feces. No. Yuck. I assume if you need that service, you either have children or pets or you live in a frat house. But either way, they'll take care of you. Of course, Advantage Steam also applies MicroSeal. And if you don't know what that is by now, then you just suck. Joel is the local small business owner of AdvantageSteam.com. He's a lifelong maggot, and he's treated, cleaned, protected, polished, and microsealed the homes of countless members of the RAD team over the years, various RAD studios, and of course, Williams Manor. And I hate admitting this, but he is a genuinely really great, nice guy. In fact, if you tell him I said that, you'll get 0% off all services. So go to AdvantageSteam.com. Click on Make an Appointment, enter in your available dates and any comments, like maybe type, Rob said you're a really great, nice guy. Please give me 0% off. And they will get you all set up. Just go to AdvantageSteam.com. That's AdvantageSteam.com.
Steve has been running sports books for decades, and Rob spent decades running radio so far into the ground he just created his own network. This is the Rob and Steve Sports Show on the RAD Network.
We did some baseball earlier, and I alluded to the fact that the hottest team in Major League Baseball just happens to play in West Sacramento, California. The only other team that's won 5 in a row are the San Diego Padres. The A's defeated the Mets 1-0 yesterday, completing a sweep of the Mets and going 5-1 in New York. No small feat. Never mind the coast-to-coast flying and all that crap. Yankees and Mets, what are those 2 of the top 3 payrolls in baseball? The A's, it's early, but we always temper things around here. It might be early, but every game counts the same. The A's are tied for first place. We did talk earlier when we were talking about baseball, all this parity. 26 of the 30 teams are within 3.5 games of each other. The A's are 8-7. They begin their second home series of the season today against the Rangers. It's Severino against Eovaldi. The A's have a lot of reason to be flying high and feeling good. I've watched most of all these games this weekend. Yes, I'm an A's fan. Fine, I'm biased. But I've been saying from the beginning of the season, there's these little things you can look at, 50 strikeouts in a weekend against the Blue Jays, but they looked like they should have been on the field with the Blue Jays, although the Blue Jays are tanking now. Not tanking, they're spiraling. Sorry, different term. They've had a high degree of difficulty schedule, and they've felt like the A's have, at least they project outwardly, that they have a real chance to be something this year. I don't think that nobody's saying they're going to the AL championship game or anything like that. But that was a pretty good 5-1 run in New York.
It really was, and a lot of good signs. I mean, they brought up JT Ginn Friday, pitched great. They've been getting some good pitching, which is a little bit surprising at this point. We know they can hit. Early on in the season, they struggled hitting the ball. But Nick Kurtz, their one run yesterday, a solo blast by Nick Kurtz. If they can get him back to the player he was last year, and I believe he's going to. I'm not pushing the panic button that Nick Kurtz, he was a one-year wonder, and now he's going through. He's got to adjust to that second season that we see rookies do. It's not going to be as easy as it was the first season. There's tape on him. The players understand. But I do believe he is that good of a player. And look, Aaron Judge struggles every year through April. We're watching him struggle again this year. It isn't time to say, you got to bench him. What's wrong with him? Kurtz will be there. This A's team is going to score a ton of runs. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. They just need to get, in my opinion, a little bit more out of their 4 or 5 guys. Morales and Lopez have not done a whole lot. But even Aaron Savali, who came in, had a great game yesterday. A shutout through his, 5 2/3 innings. So the A's playing really good baseball. It's going to be a fun summer. And it's nice to see, as you said, going into New York on the road and you win 5 of 6 on that road trip. If you would have said we go 3-3 going into it, you would have said, I'll take that. That's a tough road trip. 3-3 is success for me. 5-1 just shows this team has talent.
A quick update before we go back to the streaking teams, good and bad. We talked last week about the Tigers and that terrible collision in the outfield, and Parker Meadows, who we knew had a concussion. Remember, AJ Hinch, the manager, was really concerned, and we were wondering, okay, is that like, did they already know what level of concussion it was? And you brought up, Steve, they kept him overnight. And now we know he also has a broken arm along with that concussion. He's on the 10-day IL after running into each other on Thursday. And that was just ugly. You hope he heals well and he comes back. I don't know how they're not saying, they put him on 10 days. That doesn't mean he's back necessarily in 10 days.
No, that doesn't mean, that's just giving them that window. You don't want to go 60. That's your other choice. You're not putting him out for 2 months. So you just hope he recovers. You hope he's going to be all right. He is a very good defensive outfitter for you who doesn't hit a ton. Tigers, though, big weekend, swept Miami, which was a nice win. And hopefully this will start moving the Tigers in the right direction. Sorry, Parker Meadows, but the Tigers, I still think they're going to be there.
Yeah, in the long run, I haven't lost faith in the Tigers, who I had them at the beginning of the year winning the Central, based entirely really on their pitching, and I like AJ Hinch. Not that their hitting sucks, but we were high on the Tigers last year, and they came out of nowhere when everybody had buried them in August. But I think they'll be there in the end. And I did mention the only other team that's won 5 in a row, other than the A's, is the Padres. There's 10 games tonight. Padres don't play. They start tomorrow. They'll host Seattle. But some other streaks, you talk about Aaron Judge. He's never good early in the season, or he shows some good, and then he goes, and everybody said, bench him, he's terrible. Yankees have lost 5 in a row, and they are now, they're in a tie for first place with the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, the Orioles are also 8-7 in this bunched up American League East division, but it was just, a week ago, you as a Red Sox fan were like, whoa, I don't want to get too far behind the Yankees if they run away from it. Well, no concerns of that. Yankees, they're still in New York, and they start a series with the Angels tonight. So you say, yeah, not time to bench Aaron Judge, but what about the Yankees in mass? Because those boo birds are quick in New York.
They're real quick in New York and riding a 5-game losing streak, losing to the A's the last 2 and getting swept by Tampa on the road. But they're coming home. They got the Angels pitching. Although I love Jose Soriano. I don't know if many people know who he is. He's a great young pitcher for him. This kid is a stud. But the Angels are the Angels they've been for the last several years. And keep in mind, the Yankees just aren't hitting. They're hitting the Mendoza line. They're hitting like 202 on the season. Their pitching ERA, I think, is second in baseball. And that's just getting Lewis Heel just came back. Rondon is throwing. Garrett Cole is throwing. They have pitching on the way, and their pitching right now is already one of the best in baseball. As soon as the Yankees start hitting, when the weather warms up, look out. This team is going to be really, really good. And Aaron Judge, at the end of the year, you'll see 50 homers, 120 RBIs. Guy will be hitting 300. And you'll just say, yeah, he just isn't very good in April.
So we mentioned, the A's, they go to New York, they go 5-1. They swept the Mets. The Mets are in that streak meter. They've lost 5 in a row, and lucky them, they start a series, as we already talked about earlier, the 2 highest payrolls in all of baseball, in LA against the Dodgers. This has all those compelling elements, Steve. New York, LA, biggest payroll on biggest payroll. And is it where the Dodgers say, oh, that's so cute, you have a higher payroll than we do, we're going to just sweep you here in LA? Do the Mets pull their heads out and actually give the Dodgers a run for their money? This to me is an early season fun series to watch.
You have to hope the Mets do. And if they can find a way to pull 2 out of 3, they just got destroyed at home. They lost 5 out of 6 to Arizona and the A's. They can't do that kind of thing. The Braves, outstanding season so far, especially with their starting pitching. The Mets just got to survive this one. Just get through LA. Don't get swept, because if they go and get swept, then they've lost 8 in a row going into Chicago, which just makes it even more difficult. And we will hear the Boo Birds if the Mets do not perform decently against the Dodgers in this 3-game series.
One of those middle of the game, middle of the road, middle of the pack games, but I always mention it because, in my opinion, it's always must see, much pay attention to TV when Paul Skeens pitches. The Pirates are hosting the Nationals this afternoon, 3:40 Pacific time. It seems like Skeens had that one crappy outing, and the rest of it, I think this is only his fourth start, but either way, he's looked like Paul Skeens.
Yeah, the last two, and you got to give him a break on that first one. Tyler O'Neill just didn't play good center field. It cost him like 5 runs, got him knocked out. But the Pirates sitting at 9-6 right now. This is a good young team. You got to like them. And big series against Washington. Washington can hit. They've been one of the top hitting teams in baseball. They've been top 5. They just have no pitching. I think they're scoring like 6 runs a game, but they're giving up 6 runs a game. So hopefully the Pirates can get a little pitching, cool those national bats down. And I'm rooting for the Pirates this year. I'd like to see them have a good season and keep building on it because I'd love them to be able to keep their talent. And none of us think they're keeping Paul Skeens, but wouldn't it be wonderful for the Pirates and the Pirates organization and their fans if they were able to reach deep into that pocket and pay him? And the fact they can't is why new ownership, bring in somebody who's willing to pay and wants to compete, but that's not going to happen either.
Is it possible that the way the Pirates are looking to the Paul Skeens thing is, look, we wrapped up Connor Griffin. We know there's going to be a lockout in 27, and that's our key. That we're going to negotiate as a league, as owners, a salary cap and maybe a ceiling and maybe a floor. Is it possible that that's what the Pirates are clinging to? Is that after they get a CBA, they have the ability to immediately say, "All right, Paul, here's your deal."
I think you hit on something big there. And I would love to say that's exactly what the Pirates are doing. And the reason they're waiting, I would not trade him before they go out on strike or get locked out. I would not, because I want to see how the chips are going to fall through this negotiation and then figure it out at that point. He is, if they decide to move him, once they settle and reach an agreement, they'll know how the game's going to be played. He will still be an extremely valuable player. But right now, I mean, you got Mitch Keller, who's throwing good. There's some hope for Bubba Chandler. Jared Jones, who was a good, promising arm a couple of years ago, but got hurt. He's still sitting there. You just brought up Connor Griffin at shortstop. They have the pieces to be a very good franchise if they can lock them up and keep them together and they can stay healthy and continue to perform like they should perform. This could be a really good team. We could be looking at the Pirates again, like in the mid-90s when they challenged the Braves every year.
There are 2 other teams that make the streak meter for baseball. You got to get to 5. Neither one of them are playing today, so we'll talk about them tomorrow when we come back with the Rob and Steve Sports Show. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Everything's available at theradnetwork.com.
This has been a presentation of the Rob and Steve Sports Show, brought to you by the Rad Network and is copyrighted by theradnetwork.com and Williams Broadcasting for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, accounts, or descriptions of whatever Rob and Steve just talked about without the express permission of the Rad Network, Williams Broadcasting, and Rob's